All right, the time being 10:08, I would like to get started with today's work session. And I will open the work session on Senate Bill 324. And I think we have an amendment from Representative Plett. Handed out, Representative Plett.
Yeah. During the public hearing on Senate Bill 324, the Lottery Commission had a concern that they enunciated that this should apply only to annual licenses. Like a small, like a quarter or less of their licenses are monthly or quarterly. It just wouldn't work. And so so I have an amendment here that strikes a sentence and adds a similar sentence. At least 45 days prior to the expiration of an annual license issued in accordance with this chapter, the Commission shall notify the licensee of the pending expiration. So it clearly applies only to annual licenses now. And they said they have to do this anyway under RSA 541A29 and 541A30. This refers explicitly to 541A30. I did leave a request on their website, email, and I never got an answer. But this did cover what I think the concerns were in hearing.
Thank you. Representative Schamberg.
Representative Plett, your last, in lines 13 and 14 of the amendment are different than lines 12, 13, and 14 of the original bill. You've reduced something there. Is that because you put it in the sentences above on 6 and 7 and 8?
Well, let me get the original bill.
All right.
All I did was insert a couple of lines. That's it.
No.
Well, that's what I did. What the drafters did, another story.
All right. Well, it talks about the revoking or suspending under this section by the commission no less than 45 days before such revocation or suspension.
Well, by referring to 541A30, all of that's there. The commission shall,
Okay.
huh?
All right.
It refers to a different RSA.
Thank you.
Okay, so the notification looks like the notification's been moved up. Okay.
Well, the notification is still 45 days, but it refers only to annual licenses.
Right. Okay. Representative Almy.
Thank you. Are there any licenses that are 2 years or more?
Not to my knowledge, but I see the people here so they can respond. I see Valerie King.
Good morning. My name is Valerie King. I'm with New Hampshire Lottery. There are no 2-year licenses. I did want to point out one thing. We have been in communications with Senator D'Alessandro to make sure that any changes we made were met his satisfaction as well. The draft that we received did include the additional language, the at least 45 days, but it still had the next sentence, which reads, the commission shall notify licensees licensed under RSA. That refers to the expirations, the revocations. That needed to be struck because we can't give a notification before it happens.
There's a copy of the redraft over there, and you glance through that and see if you still have a concern. Borrow here.
Yes, that's correct. What you have in
Is correct now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other concerns?
No.
Thank you. Anyone on the committee have a? Everyone's good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so no further comments from the committee on SB 324. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the work session on SB 324. Okay, next I'll open the work session on SB 363. I don't think we have an amendment. Yes, Representative Platt.
This, several years ago, we got rid of greyhound racing because of the abuse that the animals were put under. This eliminates the simulcast for greyhound racing. That's all it is. There is a small economic impact, but to me, it's got to be a small part of the overall revenues, and if we live up to our word about the greyhound racing and the abuse that the dogs are undertaking, but we still have horse racing, which is fine, historic horse racing. So I don't see a problem, but let's discuss it.
Comments, concerns from the committee?
Might be on the same page.
All right. Looks like we agree on this one. Okay. Thank you. I will close the work session on SB 363. So that's going to be OTP. All right, next I will open the work session on SB 473. And Representative Platt, I think you have an amendment for that.
I
as
do,
well.
and this amendment came through the commission, from the commission through Senator. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, through Senator Lang
There you
to
go.
me, and so I just incorporated what I got and made the amendment. The words are stricken of the books or records of said person, association, corporation, which clearly show the tickets entitled to reimbursement in any given race, live, simulcast, or historic shall be forwarded to the Lottery Commission. Such money shall become a part of the special fund established in RSA 28421J. That's stricken. Also stricken, vouchers shall be remitted to the state treasurer on January 31st of the calendar year, 24 months after the year of the unclaimed voucher. Added is on or before July 1 of every year. Said person, association, or corporation shall submit to the treasurer a check for any unclaimed money during the previous fiscal year, along with a gaming operator's written report for the previous fiscal year's unclaimed money, which shall itemize both the unclaimed tickets and vouchers and the unclaimed amounts therefrom. A copy of the report shall be forwarded to the Lottery Commission. For the first biennial year after the effective date of this section, the report shall cover both years of the previous biennium. Treasurer shall deposit the unclaimed ticket and voucher money in the governor's scholarship fund. And so that this work did not come from me. I was just a conduit because it's now a House bill. Yeah.
Representative Almy.
I was under the impression that most of us or all of us wanted to get rid of the money going to the governor's scholarship fund because it's unconstitutional for one thing. And we ought to have the money where it belongs in the education trust fund.
I can't speak to that.
I actually have a note here that I took during the public hearing that with the words delete, as per what you're saying.
Yeah. So that would be removing most of line 22 and line 23 from it.
So if we struck the treasurer shall deposit the unclaimed ticket and voucher money in the governor's scholarship fund, you fine with the rest of it? And everybody else, because I'll ask.
Okay, let's,
Does it have to be?
Huh?
Representative.
Should it
Doucette.
be specified the education trust fund?
I think it's automatic. Representative,
It is.
I
Ames.
think all lottery money goes into the education trust fund, as I understand it. If the director wants to speak to that, that would be fine and helpful, I'm sure.
Um,
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Charlie McIntyre, Executive Director of New Hampshire Lottery. With me is John Conforti, our Chief Compliance Officer. Well, do you want to speak, John?
Oh, sure. I could speak to that. I know at the there were numerous questions at the public hearing about some inconsistencies within the statutory language. I know there's also the discussion about the source of where the funds would go to. We worked with Senator Lang to try to clean up the language as best we could to make sure everything was consistent. With respect to the obviously trying to effectuate what Senator Lang was trying to do in his original bill, Senate bill, we took out the language with regard to RSA 280, the fund for RSA 284-21J, left in the language regarding the governor's scholarship fund. Obviously, that's so. What we were just trying to do is clean up the language as Senator Lang intended it coming out of the Senate.
Now to,
We,
go ahead.
sorry, just sorry to interrupt. Also, at the public hearing, there was a discussion regarding the constitutionality of moving the money to the governor's scholarship fund. We did reach out to the Department of Justice, and I know they are currently working on an opinion on that issue specifically.
wait a minute, let me go to Representative Spilsbury first. You had his hand.
Yeah, I would concur with the amendment, provided that that last sentence is removed. And I also wanted to ask, so just to clarify what was said a moment ago, so does that then mean that the sentence "such monies shall become a part of the special fund established in RSA 284"? Does that have to go back in? What does that specifically refer to?
Yeah, so it doesn't. It can certainly be put back in. That it specifies that it goes to the Education Trust Fund. Certainly, in the absence of any specific language, any revenues that would come to us would go to the Education Trust Fund.
So it merely clarifies what would otherwise be true as a default matter.
correct.
Okay.
Representative Platt.
Okay, if we struck that sentence about going to the Governor's Scholarship Fund, it won't give you heartburn at all.
We don't make a decision on where the money goes. As my boss likes to say, we only make the money and then we hand it over to you, and it's up to you to decide where it should go.
Or at least your colleagues down the hall.
I didn't hear that.
At least your colleagues down the hall. Down in finance.
Yes, Representative Almy.
Yes, I believe this bill doesn't have to come out until May 16th. Could we just wait for the Department of Justice?
If I could, Representative Allen, to that point, we did speak with the Assistant AG yesterday actually about this, and he said he's about 3/4 done. So I'd imagine it would be days, not weeks.
Representative Platt.
Though I understand the sentiment, if you don't like it, you don't like it, no matter what the AG says. And so if you don't like it, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, good point. Yes, Representative Ames.
Yeah, I support what Representative Platt has just said. I think that all lottery funds after expenses have flowed into the Education Trust Fund. That's what you advertise. That's the expectation. That's my expectation, our expectation, I think. And it seems to be quite clear to me that that's what the Constitution expects. And so I don't think we need to wait, and let's get, it's nice to get some things done and moved out of our purview. So this is one opportunity for that.
Representative Schamberg, followed by Fellows.
Yes, a question for the director. The definition of a lottery of tickets and things like this that was established in 1964, is that different than what parimutuel and what's the other term here, unclaimed tickets? Is that a separate definition that can go somewhere else besides into the Education Trust Fund?
Well, we're certainly looking at, we'll give you the history of it, obviously. a sweepstakes commission was passed in 1963, implemented in 64, and it was a very specific sweepstakes ticket. We added a number of games. Those all became traditional lottery tickets. In the 70s and 80s, we added scratch tickets. We added Powerball in 1986. All those were traditional lotteries. And then in 1990 was codified in the Constitution the specific language that Representative Ames was referring to regarding revenues of lottery minus expenses equals education trust fund. Thereafter, the former parimutuel commission, which then became the Racing and Charitable Gambling Commission, was merged with lottery. We absorbed them. And so their revenues is not defined by lottery traditionally as per history of the legislature of the state. And so that's why we're asking an opinion, not just for this matter, which is helpful, but certainly for going forward, because that wasn't part of us in 1990 when the constitutional amendment was passed.
Representative Fellows?
Thank you. On the amendment, I just have a question about lines 8 through 11 that are crossed out now. So, for the first part of it about records, currently it says records have to be submitted to the lottery, and that's crossed out. Did you cross that out because you don't want that, or?
That is true. We're trying to simplify the process. So this is currently the process is that we receive books and records of unclaimed vouchers, and then we hold them on our books for a prolonged period of time for people to be able to come and reimburse them. This is to streamline this, to set a set time period where people can get reimbursed at the property, and then just essentially send the check over to us rather than have us be a part of the reimbursement process.
Just follow up.
Follow up?
So, I would think that this might play some kind of role in ensuring that they send you all the money that you should be getting, or how are you going to know that?
We still have several other statutory authorities to be able to audit those funds and those books in order to ensure that we're getting full amount. So they don't actually need to produce those over to us. We have other powers that allow us to ensure that we're getting everything that the state is entitled to.
Yes, Representative Elberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when we get to the executive session, would it be, or should I wait till then to ask? I'm just wondering from a procedural perspective that if we don't like that last sentence on lines 20, 22, and 23 in the amendment, can we just amend the amendment to remove that line?
No, Representative Plett has made a request to get a new amendment drafted.
Okay,
and we
thank you.
hopefully we'll be able to get that
It will be in time for us to exec.
All right, thank you.
in theory.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative Southworth.
So just point of order, do you need a straw vote to say that we want Representative Plett to do that, or are we all set?
I think we're all set. Do you have an
I mean, it
objection?
sounds
to
like
this?
the best idea.
Yeah.
Representative Plett did it.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Representative Spilsbury.
Yeah, just to clarify, if we are dropping the sentence on line 22 and 23, aren't we also reinstating the sentence on line 10 and 11?
I don't know.
So, well, we can ask
Mr.
our witness again, but I believe that's what I heard. Such monies shall become a part of the special fund established in RSA 284-21J. I don't have the ability to look up that citation right now, but I'm assuming that's what we want.
Mr. Conforti, do you have or do you
Yes,
have an opinion on
that is the education trust fund. That's the account that holds over to education trust.
And if I recall correctly, Representative, this language was added when racing was merged with us, so it made clear where the funds would go, because they weren't originally part of lottery. That's probably.
So given that history, I think it's important to clarify.
Oh, okay. Representative Plett?
I have a concern with cross-referencing of RSAs. If RSA 284, 21J exists, that's where it's going, whether or not this refers to it.
Well, I think it's a fine point, but given the history and the fact that this activity was not originally part of the Lottery Commission when the constitutional amendment was adopted, I just think that this is, it removes all doubt.
So I'm,
Okay, yes, Representative Fellows.
I'm unclear about this discussion. I assumed that the 2284-21 is the governor's scholarship fund. No, it's not the trust fund.
It's not the trust fund. It is the fund that the treasurer holds for lottery funds in order to hold that's where our funds sit and our expenses get paid out of. The overflow from that account then goes into the education trust fund.
Oh, okay. So we shouldn't take that out.
So you would recommend that come back in?
If the intent of the committee is to ensure that the money is going to flow as all lottery monies flow, it certainly would be, I would guess, advisable to put that back in.
Okay. Representative Leapley.
So my understanding of what we're saying now is that we've cut the books or records of said person. We're going to leave that sentence out
Yes.
because we don't want them to have to deal with the records. But the second sentence that says such monies shall become a part of the special fund established in RSA,
Right.
we're going to keep that sentence.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Representative Platt.
Ms. Ford, did you hear the discussion? So, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we all good? All right. Thank you very much. And I'll close the work session on SB 473. Okay, I'm going to open the work session on SB 454. And with that, just note to the committee that this is the one early bill we have. All the other bills are not early bills so far that we have in committee. Discussion on 454. Representative
Excuse me,
Almey.
Mr. Chair. I
yeah.
didn't hear what you said.
Oh.
It's the only bill that.
It's the only early bill
Oh, thank you.
that we have, so it has to be out,
Actually,
what is it, April 16th, I believe. No,
April, yeah, I think it is April 16th. I know it's April 16th.
I can tell you is it April 16th? April 25th, actually. No, it's May 16th that the other bills have to be out.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
April
and
25th.
April 25th.
So we have plenty of time, but I wanted to
So
make
much
note of
for
that.
now.
There's no
Yeah.
reason to delay if we know what we want to do with it. Representative Almey.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have the little bit of time that we've got until then in terms of revenues to try to see what is actually happening to the business profit tax.
Okay. Representative Spilsbury.
I'm curious, to what committee will this go?
Finance. Definitely. And we're being told that it is because of the extra refunds. The extra refunds are above, by that amount, what the DRA thought they would be this year. And we'd set it up thinking that, okay, most of those refunds aren't going to start hitting us for a while so that we can adapt to it. And I don't know how much that is. I'd like to get the DRA in here to talk to us about that and whatever else is going on with the business profits tax.
Well, maybe we can get yes, Representative Spilsbury.
Yeah, this is 454, right?
Yes.
So this deals with allocation of real estate transfer taxes, and I'm missing what the connection is to the refunds
Well,
on BPT.
I think going from 5 million to 10 million, I think, well, Representative Almy, I'll let you talk to it.
About half of that money comes out of the general fund and about half of that money comes out of the ETF. And finance could next year, if we're in real trouble, in the budget, undo this. But that's the only way they could handle if they need that 5 million for other things that are just as important.
I'm just not getting the connection what refunds in the business profit tax have to do with the real estate transfer tax.
Microphone.
Sorry, the business profits tax and the business enterprise tax that we're seeing in the statements about how much tax money is coming in the business profits tax is showing a considerable reduction due to refunds. But when the DRA figured out what we thought we'd be getting this year, they included what they thought the refunds would be under the new system that we had developed 2 terms ago to try to cut down the excess money sitting there that the businesses could take at any time. And they're saying that this is due to the refunds, but it's excess refunds above what our estimates had been in the budget.
Representative Leapley, followed by Platt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to confirm that this time would be appropriate to ask a question to DRA. Are we in work session on this bill?
Yeah, we can. We'll do that shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Let me go to Representative Platt.
I think the relation, Representative Almy still didn't hit it, but the relation is overall taxes. And I keep track of whether we're surplus or negative and all that. Overall taxes, we hit a high of about $106 million. Since then, in March, it's been less. We've had a hit, and it's been negative in March. And I think overall we're about 56, somewhere in the $56 million range surplus, which could continue to disappear. And the concern is if we're taking an extra $5 million and putting it into from real estate transfer tax into a special fund, does that leave enough money elsewhere to fund state government? And so
Okay, well, if it's just a matter of observing about overall shortages and concerns, I concur.
Yeah.
I don't think this bill is wise.
And especially since the let's say
Is that what, in fact, you were trying to drive at?
Are you talking about Representative Almy?
Yes, Representative Almy,
Yes.
please.
Um,
Am I interpreting you correctly?
Yes, I am worried that if we put it in the special fund, then the finance committee can undo it in the budget, but that's kind of a last minute when people have been expecting to have it, that they would be doing. And if things are okay, there will probably be a lot of interest in giving them that 5 million.
Yes, and I think this was similar to, according to the notes I took, similar to our concerns during the public hearing, and similar conclusion. Representative Fellows.
So I would just like to add to that. I
Well,
have
so-
the same concern about reducing what's available in the general fund and also the education trust fund. But in addition to that, I would just like to add that putting the first $5 million into that affordable housing fund was only done in 2020. So, you know, it takes a while for things to get started. We don't even know what kind of impact that's having. So I think it would be prudent if we're going to start putting $10 million into a fund that we really want to hear exactly what benefit that has.
Right. Representative Southworth.
Thank you. For clarification, Representative Almy, are you thinking we should wait perhaps till like the second week of April or something? We'll have more information by then. I'm just wondering
If-
about the timeline.
Yeah. Well, the latest we could wait would be the third week in April.
But that's too really tight to the 25th.
Well, no, we have to have it out of here on the 25th.
That's right.
That is really not we are fairly far behind. We're some 26 million or so behind on the business profits tax right now. But in the next 5 days, it hasn't happened in the past, but in the next 5 days, it could mostly disappear. And the same thing would be happening in April. So I think we're talking about having a revenue reestimate in May, but, and that's really the first time we can be fairly sure what's going on. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think 2 weeks is probably not going to make that much of a difference in terms of figuring that out. I know there's a lot of questions. Let me invite DRA up, if you guys would come up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Representative.
just for our scheduling, the 15th is the Monday of the beginning of the first week, or the third week in April. So we have the entire rest of that week, and DRA should have a pretty good idea of what they're, because the 15th is a deadline for their filing. So we've got 4 days anyway in the third week. And the 25th is then the Thursday of the next week.
I mean, I understand that. My concern would be that, that isn't going to make a trend. If we see some sort of trend now, I'm not sure that one more point is going to give us enough to decide one way or the other. My sense is no matter what, whether we wait, we're still going to probably reach the same conclusion. But let's ask DRA how we're doing with our revenues right now.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lauren O'Sullivan. I'm the Senior Financial Analyst at the DRA.
I'm Wendy Mativier, a Financial Analyst at DRA.
And we're here to answer any questions. So I was following along with the conversation, but is there a specific question that I'll do my best to answer?
Well, I guess the first question would just be, I'll ask the first question and then we can go from there, would be how are revenues tracking at this point?
Okay, so what I have in front of me right now is today's cash basis revenue report, which is reporting revenues received 2 business days ago. So this is through March 22nd. And right now, what we're looking at, the business taxes month to date are $35 million below the prior year and 39 million below plan as of that day. What's due this month are the partnership returns and extensions. So the majority of our filers, they're not due until April 15th. So we were looking at some of those transactions and it's a confluence of different things. Some of it they haven't filed yet. Some of it, these were one-time tax notices. Some of it, they maybe paid a little bit less. So it's a hodgepodge. The refunds are actually very similar to last March. And we still have we have more refunds coming out tomorrow, and that will be the last for this month. So we'll have a better sense how much of that is related to the credit carryovers. But one thing that we've had noticed over the course of the year. About half of those refunds we can attribute to the 500% cap being in effect for those credit carry forwards. Well, we notice many of those taxpayers, when they are taking those refunds, are taking more refund than, how do I say this? They could leave up to 500%, but they're taking more than that. So they're leaving maybe less than 100% of their liability as credit on account. Those who are only leaving 500% on account tend to be our smaller taxpayers, where 500% of their liability is less than $1,000. But some of the bigger taxpayers are, so then when the 250 kicks in, they don't have that money sitting on account. It came out essentially in the timeline a little bit earlier than perhaps expected.
Okay. Is it fair to say that two numbers you mentioned was 22 million below last year?
That was so for the month it's 35.7 below, and year to date it's 26.7 below.
Okay, but the year-to-date month doesn't mean as much right now.
Correct, because the majority of our taxpayers will their due date is April 15th.
Okay.
So this is just the partnerships.
All right. Representative Almy?
Thank you. So the under 500% are not reacting yet, which is what we'd expected them to do, to not react.
What it is if it's below the 500% way, they're taking a refund. We don't necessarily know why someone would take a refund, except that I can tell if you didn't take a refund, it's because you're at the 500%, you had to take something.
Yeah.
And then what I noticed, if they only left 500% on an account, it would be this much, but they're taking more than that. So they're actually taking those refunds sooner than perhaps, instead of keeping more of it on account to take away from future liability, lowering those estimates.
Follow up.
So what we did was draw their attention to the fact that they had all this money sitting here that they'd never taken when we thought they'd just shave it down.
That I couldn't tell you exactly what the motivation is. I know there's two ways they can request the refund, and if you don't request a refund, we will automatically, if you're at the 500%, automatically refund you that amount, or we'll give you so many days to make a decision through letters, and if you don't respond to the letter, then you will get a refund. So there's also that happening in the back as part of our processes that is forcing some of those refunds out of the door.
But
Follow up.
what we would have been expecting when we were doing the revenue estimates 2 years ago would have been that the 500%ers that we refunded would go down to 300% with the refund. If you were just sending it back to them, you wouldn't send them the whole 500%, you'd send them the 200% at the top.
I would have to look into, I wasn't here for when that was done, so I'd have to
Yeah,
see
I
if that
know.
was the thought
I know.
process at the time.
Yeah, and we don't really know what the thought process they went through was either, so.
But I do know we do have processes in place that if you do not request a refund or fill out that part of the form and you're due a refund, you are given the opportunity to leave a credit. But if you do not respond to the letters, we will issue the refund. And that is actually a policy decision that was made. So that's also impacting that. That's outside of the CCO rules.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know what the time frame for? I think the next step down was 250%, or is it 300?
I think it's tax year 25 to 250
Okay. Do you know
I-
in 25 in
for tax year 25.
25?
So
Okay.
So that would probably be due in I don't have that in front of me. I didn't come
Okay.
prepared to talk about business taxes today.
Right.
So I don't have that information in front of me. So we can send you that information as a reminder of how that phase out.
Yeah. That's more affecting us in the future.
Yeah.
Representative Platt and then Spilsbury.
Yes, I can't remember the bill number. We had a House bill earlier this year which had this tax cut, that tax cut, another tax cut, all in one big, wrapped up in a big red bow. And we decided with that individually, those tax cuts may have merit in the future, might, but we have to have a revenue, we'd have to have a revenue year, a budget year, so we could take an overall look at revenues before we decided anything. And I see this as the same thing. I like the sentiment of increasing another $5 million. I like the sentiment into the affordable housing, but I just think the timing is wrong. Our revenues are not extremely robust for year to date. Overall, there's still a positive, even though, but despite the business profit tax, but not by a huge amount. And I expect that we just don't have it's not robust enough for me to feel comfortable doing anything till next year. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest interim study.
Yeah, and I would also add to that, that until we see those April returns and extension come in, it's really hard to gauge, even for the interest and dividends tax. That's when the bulk of the revenue comes in.
Okay. Representative Spilsbury, followed by Leapley, followed by Ames.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To refocus on what specifically SB 454 proposes, I'd like to make two observations. Number one, no tax revenue source has taken a deeper hit in this current fiscal year as real estate transfer tax. It's not close. And my sense of the market, given the sustained high mortgage interest rates, is that it's not about to recover anytime very soon. My second observation is that the effective date proposed here is July 1st, 2025. So I would just ITL this bill and see where we are next year.
Representative Leapley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two questions and then two observations. My first question deals with I'm looking at the monthly preliminary reports that we get, just because I want to ask a couple questions about RET to make sure I understand.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the real estate transfer tax month to date, the plan, and then the difference. And there's the general fund column, there's the education fund column, and then there's a gen and ed together column. So does half of RET go to the general and half go to?
A third goes to the education trust fund.
Okay. And so a third to education trust fund and 2/3 to the general fund.
Yes.
And this bill just says from revenue collected.
And so the way that it currently works, that 5 million comes out of the general fund portion. So that's where the transfer occurs on the 5 million right now.
So my expectation is that if we're increasing the amount and nothing else changes, it would still come from the same place.
That's where the
General
transfer
fund.
would occur. I'd have to look behind the scenes if there's any back calculations, because once we put something in the education trust fund, we generally don't take the money out to.
We hold it in trust for education.
Yeah, we like, what if we put in too much, we leave it there.
Okay. It's not for housing, it's for education. The other question I had is just to make sure I'm reading this right. So when I look at the RET for the general fund, it says month to date 9.5 million. Is that receipts?
So yeah, that's receipts net of refunds. That's the 9462 number you're looking at.
I mean, mine says 9.5. And then the next it says plan 7.0. So for this month, for this fund, it's
May I just ask which
yeah,
report
this
you're
is the
looking at?
thing I got in the email that we get.
Oh, is that the one from Department of Admin Services?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
So maybe it's less precise than yours. I'm not worried about like point whatever.
okay.
I just want to
wanna
make sure
we're
I
on the same page.
understand.
Okay.
So it looks to me, I'll say what I understand, you correct me.
Okay.
So it looks like real estate transfer tax, month to date, 9.5 million. The plan was 7.0. I'm talking about the gen
okay.
fund. So that's 2.5 million over just for that month, right? And then if I look across over to the education fund, it says 3.4, and I guess there's not really a month to date because you're transferring it from the other account.
That's correct. So what you're seeing, those transfers to the education trust fund occur on the last business day of the month. So essentially, if you want to think about all the money stops in the general fund first, and then it's calculated what goes to the education trust fund. And this is true for all taxes except for utility property tax, which 100% goes to the education trust fund. And then at the end of the month, the amounts that belong to the education trust fund, then we do a general ledger entry to move that. So what you're looking at now on your month to date, your pricing is 0 for the education trust fund. That education trust fund piece is in the 9.5 million. So if you take a third of that,
Okay.
that's what, as of today, that's what would go to the education trust fund.
So now I want to back out because I
Okay.
just had the monthly numbers, and so it was
Yeah.
helpful for me to understand. So to back out, I'm wondering what were our receipts for RET last year as opposed to this year? Like just total receipts for the year?
Oh, for the whole year. So
Yeah.
for RET was 200. So this is net of the affordable housing fund transfer. So 209.2 million, and then just add back 5 million to that.
That was
That was
20,
that was 2023
and the
on a cash basis. So that may not.
and year to date for this year, I guess
So
that is year to date for this year.
So year to date this year, and so that's through March 22nd, is 140.6 million. And at this time last year, it was 168.8 million.
Okay. So the reason I ask all of
Do you have
this,
one more question? I want to get other.
so I just, so I've been asking questions of DRA, and this is a work session, and others have given their takeaways and what we should do with this bill. So I'm gonna give my takeaway now that I've gotten the information I needed. So if I understand correctly, when this was established in 2020, it was $5 million. If we adjust for inflation only, right? If we were giving them exactly the same amount of dollars today, it would be 6 million. So what we're talking about is $4 million. And I understand you raise a good point about tax cuts and we should hold off. Tax cuts are like a huge unknown, right? We don't know how much revenue we're giving up with a tax cut. With this bill, we're talking about basically in real money, $4 million. That's a very small amount when we talk about the New Hampshire budget. Hi.
Hi.
So we're talking about homelessness, right? This is a solution for homelessness, which is linked with joblessness, which when we have homeless people in the state, it's very expensive because they need other services. Not only do they need other services, they're often not going to work. So their employers and they themselves are paying less taxes. So I think we're thinking about the problem backwards. We're asking ourselves if we have enough money to pay for this expense. And I think we should be asking ourselves the opposite question. Do we want revenue in the future? If so, we should make this $4 million investment today in building houses in the state that are affordable. So let's just be real clear on what we're talking about. We're talking about $5 million. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Ames, wait a minute. Representative Ames, did you? No, but he had his hand raised before.
Yeah, much of the line of thinking that I've been following is was captured by Representative Leafley's line of questions. So I just wanted to say that in terms of the timing for this bill, this is the time for this bill because the housing need is urgent, and this is a program that from a policy perspective, the House has embraced, and the implementers of housing policy, the people who are on the ground trying to get to a better place with particularly our affordable housing, say that this is a bill that will help move the needle on that. And we need to move that needle as soon as possible, and that will, in turn, likely help with our economy and help with our revenues. And in terms of delay, I'm okay with slowing down a little bit to see what more we can see. But I've been through this for many years, and there's always uncertainty and always ups and downs in the various taxes that are imponderable. You can't figure it out. April's a big revenue month historically for interest and dividends. Well, that's a smaller tax now. And for the business taxes, but a lot comes in after that. So you still got a big question mark about what's going to be there for the year. And so we'll be better informed, true, if we wait a little bit, but we won't be fully informed. It'll still be a guessing game, an educated guessing game, but that's what it is, and we'll all be steered in our guessing by our own policy preferences, I'm sure. Like it or not, we're not totally objective. And then we'll be a little better informed, I'll say that. And maybe that will lead to a better decision. But for myself, I'm ready to go on this thing. And but I want to get a good vote that everybody's comfortable with, so I'd be okay with delaying in order to get better information.
Representative Ors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So some thoughts on this, having done this my whole life. First of all, $5 million is a drop in the bucket. Second of all, I agree with Representative Leapley. If you want to have housing in the future, affordable housing, when we have a housing crisis, then why don't we do it? Either way, I really don't care. Let's get on with it. Either pass it or kill it. I mean, jeepers, this isn't that difficult. Thank you.
Representative Almy.
Thank you. I would not agree with ITL because interim study would allow the Senate towards after we have been able to finish with the money items, the Senate to think which of their many priorities they have apparently sent to the House that are going to reduce our rainy day, not our rainy day fund, but the money that we can access, our surplus, to near zero by the end of this term. And I do not know where housing stands within all of the things that they're trying to get money for. But if we did have IS, they would presumably not engage in deficit spending over there, and they would have to make up their minds whether they're going to put this as an amendment onto a bill and send it back to us, at which point I would very happily vote for it. But
Okay.
I'm just worried about where we'll be next year if we have almost no surplus from this year.
Thank you. Representative Platt?
I sometimes have cognitive dissonance, and so I recommended interim study. I could also see, given some of the discussion, passing it, but with the idea that the Finance Committee will take another shot at it. And so if they don't think the money's there, they can do something different with it. I could go either way.
Well, my understanding is Ways and Means, we're charged with making sure that we believe the money is there. Finance finance decides of the money that's potentially there, how should it be distributed? So we do have, we should make sure that we feel comfortable with the best way to move forward as opposed to having another committee decide that. Representative Ors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is, thank you for taking my question. If you had to give us a swag as to where revenue's going in the future, April, May, June, could you give us what your swag is? I can define swag if you need it.
Yeah, I would like that defined.
Okay, very good. So where do you think it's going?
This is really tough
I
to
don't-
say because I'm seeing surprises.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to gauge, is this a one-off? Am I seeing delay, something maybe didn't come in this month, but it's gonna come in next month. I am seeing, and I think I said this in the testimony during the public hearing, I'm feeling a little bit more positive about RET. This is this is like one of the first months I've seen all fiscal year where RET is actually growing. I'm seeing the transactions growing. And while it's currently $1 million under plan, that's probably the closest to plan we've been all year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm feeling more positive. I'm not suggesting though that we're gonna have this big recovery, but I feel like we're past the bottom. But that's my own personal opinion on that. And but right now, until I really see how this month closes, and it's really hard to gauge what's happening right now with the business taxes, though I&D has been surprisingly strong this year too. I had expected to see it come down now that the rate was at 4% with their filing. So I have to look at the composition of if this is just more people are filing, that there's some, people are doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So so I feel like it's a mix. I guess to summarize that, it's a mixed bag.
Okay, thank you. Quick follow-up.
Uh,
And so do you believe that as we've cut taxes, revenues have stayed the same, gone up or down?
But that's hard to gauge because there were other things that were also impacting. It's not just the rate cut. It was moving to the single sales factor. It's going into the moving away from like the market source way of attributing what's taxable income on some of those taxes. And that's some of those are very hard to quantify if that was the motivation. If you look at it year over year, the only one that you can really look at is maybe single sales factor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Representative Doucette.
Yeah, just real briefly, I agree with Representative Almy. And if there's ever been a piece of legislation that deserves an interim study look, it's this one right here. We're playing a game of days and weeks and figures. Let's have the figures come back, and if it is in fact a priority for the other side of the wall, and we all agree that housing is a priority, let's not be hasteful in what we do to make a deadline that we have to make by rule. Let's IAS this and do the right thing at the right time.
Okay, I'm going to end the work session on SB 454. Okay, I'm going to open the work session on SB 497. And do we have an amendment? Is it passed out or?
It's a very small amendment, and I did it.
Oh, here it is.
If you don't have it, Representative Doucette, is it full?
I haven't. Would you like to speak to the amendment, Representative
The
Almy?
amendment only does one thing. On line 8, it changes completion of the federally required disproportionate share with compliance with the federally required disproportionate share. And we owe this one, I think, to Representative Ames. But I said I'd get the amendment. But
Okay.
I think, understand disproportionate share more than anyone on this side of the room.
Most likely. Okay. Any other comments on this amendment? The amendment fully replaces, does it not, Representative Almy? Or is it
The amendment.
or is it a section? I'm sorry, section 5.
Yeah, it's only section
Okay,
5.
section 5. Right.
The rest of it stays the way it is.
Yep, makes sense. And that was the recommendation, I think, during the public hearing as well. So that
Yeah.
is good. Any other comments? Representative Platt?
I'm sorry, I don't understand what's going on. What's this amendment do?
So look at line 8. Okay, line 8 used to say, well, line 8 of the amendment. If you look at line 15 of the bill, line 15 of the bill says the fourth word in, completion of. So we're changing completion of to line 8 on the amendment says compliance with. So just correcting that one. It wasn't correct to say completion of, it's compliance with. That's why that's been changed. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the work session on SB 497. All right, I'm going to open the work session on SB 513, and we have a couple of amendments, one from Representative Fellows. I also have an amendment, which I should have passed out sooner. Oh, I'm passing my amendment out. Yeah, there should be, there's 25 of them. Representative Fellows, do we already have the amendment you did, or? I don't think we have yours. Do you have the amendment, your amendment? Oh, yeah, pass that around, please. And then there was, okay, and there was something else that you had printed out, right? That you showed me, that document. Did you get copies of that? I don't think she knows. Representative Fellows, do you also have that other document you were?
So both of the amendments that you're looking at refer.
Yeah, hold on a second. Not everyone has it yet. Basic.
This is definitely.
Okay, I think everybody has all the handouts. You should have two different amendments, and then there's also just a third information sheet that Representative Fellows passed out. Let me first say that on the amendment that I have here, I received wording from Michael Haley. His concern when he testified was that churches needed to be added to the mix, and so he reworded this, and so my amendment basically fixes that issue of making sure that churches were added to the mix of charities. So let's first look at that one, Representative Almy.
Yes, it looks like what Representative Fellows passed out as background is pretty much the same as what you've got in your amendment.
All right. Any other comments on my amendment, and then or we'll go Representative Fellows.
Yeah, so, I don't remember that somebody told us that churches should be in here. I don't.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Michael Haley.
Charitable trusts.
Anyway, so that was not my focus. What I was working on, my amendment focused on the sentence that if you look at the Senate, the amendment that we got from the Senate, the sentence that was on lines, for the first sentence of 2A. And my concern with that was on line 5, the way it was worded, it sounded as if the charity organization needed a license. And this is not about, as far as I know, they don't need any kind of license to have an auction. And this section of RSA that we're working on is under the OPLC, the licensing organization for the state, and that this is a section about this is in the auctioneering description of what somebody needs to do to get a license to be an auctioneer. And this particular part of that that's being amended, the 31B:13, is a section titled exemptions. So the paragraph that exists before this, the paragraph 2, not 2A, refers, what it says there is that members of the organization don't need a license to be an auctioneer and to hold a charity auction, provided they have to be members of that organization, and they can't be members only for the purpose of holding an auction. So this particular paragraph 2A, the language in that pretty much mirrors the language in A. The difference is that this is new, this is being added, and this is trying to say that a person can be hired, doesn't have to be a member, they can be hired to be an auctioneer, but it limits the normal function of an auctioneer pretty much to just standing up there and say, you know, who bids this, who, you know, what kind of bid can I get from you, and not handling the money and the custody of the property and liability for what's, you know, presented, all of that stuff. So that makes sense. I was just trying to make the correction that the organization doesn't need a license. It's not it's a question of the auctioneer doesn't need a license. But as we got more into this, then turns out that the reference to RSA 721 2B. It says, so all of these organizations have to be eligible under RSA 721 2B, which, if you look at it, which is part of what the GPT thing is going to help you with, is they have to be a church or a religious organization. And it talks about being a denomination. So, you know, an educational institution isn't going to qualify as that. In addition, if we're supposed to need if we need to reference not just 721 2B, if we need to also reference the USC statute, which is also about churches, and as far as I could see, they look pretty much referring to the same thing, then that also needs to happen in the paragraph above. So, you know, what's going on here? So that's my concern about this, is that this is not ready for prime time and needs to go back and clarify exactly who this is supposed to be for.
Representative Ullery.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I tend to agree with Representative Fellows. It doesn't include several large charitable organizations, such as the Masons, the Lions, the Kiwanis, the Elk, the Moose, Knights of Columbus, which are all different 501c organizations.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to clarify, 501c, there are lots and lots of different kinds of 501(3). 501(3).
Well, there's C,
501(3). There are less 501c. Yes.
Three.
And then the rest of it breaks it down to many other categories, some of which are charities. 501(3)(c) qualify as charities.
That's the only one that qualifies as charity.
And the other ones are all those other things. So I don't know, maybe if we had just 501(3)(c) in here, that would take care of it, but it's too confusing, and that's why I think
Mr.
it
Chair?
needs to get fixed.
Yes.
And that was my point, because these other organizations under New Hampshire law are considered charities because New Hampshire law doesn't follow federal law. And it says that they do charitable work. And these other organizations will oftentimes run a charity raffle, a charity auction to raise funds for the works that they do. So the issue is, this needs some additional work to make sure that those charities that operate and even qualify for charitable gaming are not excluded.
What on line 8, actually, well, let me see. Okay, no, I'll take that back. Representative Platt.
What's confusing to me with the sentence construction is that it's still not clear to me that it's the individual that doesn't have to hold a license. You could read that either the individual or the charitable organization or religious organization. So I would change the wording for that by putting a period on line 12 for that organization. Put a period. Say the individual does not have to hold a license. Period. So it's clear that it's the individual that doesn't have to hold the license rather than the charity. And with respect to Representative Ullery's point, I think our definition, our state laws, RSA 721, cover all those organizations. So, but
Representative Ames, would you like to, or should I come back?
basically, I think we are going to need to take a little more time to sort this out, and it's just a drafting issue. I don't think this is as complicated as it's become. My sense is, for one thing, I'll start with this paper that Representative Fellows handed out that has on it this chat CPT 3.5. And then there's an explanation of the key elements of RSA 721-2B. Well, that's just a partial statement of what's in RSA 721. So that if you look at 721, it's quite broad. Now, I can't say for sure. The question is going to be asked about masons and elks and so forth. I don't know. I haven't had time to look at it. But I kind of like, I guess, if I'm looking at these three options as drafted and then Representative Janigians and Representative Fellows, I like the structure in Representative Janigians, which was drafted, I take it, by the
Michael
Assistant
Haley.
Attorney General in the Charitable
Yeah.
Trust, or at least it has his blessing.
Right.
And it starts out with an organization meeting the definition of a charitable organization, or the definition of a church, may engage an individual not covered in paragraph 2 of this section. This is the section that deals with licensing for auctioneers. So these organizations that are charitable or churches may engage an individual who is not covered in paragraph 2 of this section, in other words, not a licensed auctioneer, to perform charity auctions for that organization without holding a license. To me, that's pretty clear. And we just have to double check and make sure that these references are sufficiently comprehensive so that we're not leaving out inadvertently some subgroup that should be in there.
Well, let me ask Representative, excuse me, Representative Spilsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I concur with what Representative Ames has just said. I have no problem at all with what the bill wants to do. But I think that the phrasing is ambiguous. I think I personally need to look at the citations and read the language more carefully before I'm satisfied or comfortable. Particularly, I think you can read these three different versions and come down uncertain whether the purpose is to allow an unlicensed charitable organization to hire a licensed auctioneer, or second, to allow an organization to have its members be unlicensed in this process, or to have an unlicensed auctioneer. Now, my impression when we listened to testimony in the hearing was we're not talking about unlicensed auctioneers. We're talking about an organization able to hire an auctioneer without the organization needing a license. So that specific intent as to those three possible interpretations needs to be clarified and then get the syntax right to nail it down.
Representative Almy.
Yes, on Representative O'Leary, it was actually when we last had to deal with all of these different kinds of charities. I think it was at least 8 years ago. We, as I remember, we IS'd the bill, and there was going to be a study committee trying to make it work better, and it didn't happen. I will say that my brain felt like it was in a fog the whole time. So I don't think this is going to be easy, but if the legal minds on our committee could collaborate with each other over email or something and try to figure it out. We've got until May 25.
Yeah, no, I think my sense right now would be for Representative Spilsbury and Representative Ames to work possibly with Michael Haley of the Trust Division to come up with language that the three of you feel is comprehensive. because I think we could go around and around in circles right now, most of us, not being that familiar with this. Representative Ulrich.
Thank you. It's more comprehensive than just this particular bill. There's several other bills that are out there that we've actually heard a couple of them this year. And we killed one of them recently. The definition of a charity in New Hampshire seems to be either super broad or limited to 501c3s. And it's not entirely clear how that operates and how that's going to work. And I think that's the point that Representative Almy was, starts with an A, close enough.
It's got an M in it too.
So that may be part of what they need to determine. The intent is it, do we just want 501(c)(3)s or do we want a broader definition? That may be partly what they can help determine. Representative Almy.
Yeah, there's another body that I had noted that we ought to check with. There is a board of auctioneers, and so we ought to check with the OPLC about this too.
Okay, Representative Fellow.
So I just want to say that based on where this is in the statute, this is in the licensing statute.
Yes.
It's
right.
the one that's licensing an auctioneer. So it's in a section that says exemptions. So to be an auctioneer, you have to have all these certain qualifications. And then this particular section of that licensing says you don't have to you can do auctioneering activities without a license. That's what this paragraph is about. So it's clearly it's going into the professional licensing statutes. So it's not licensing an organization. That part is clear.
So they should be
I also like to
consulted.
point out that what we got from the Senate says that this paragraph is about charity auctions by nonprofit. And in the process of getting additional amendments done for this, in that act, this is OLS made changes to definition of what this act is about, because that's their prerogative. You can give them a suggestion, but they can change that part that says an act and description of the act. So in mine, they changed it to allowing certain charitable organizations and certain religious organizations to engage in unlicensed auctioneering. It's organizations to engage in unlicensed auctioneer who is not a member of the organization. And then in the chair's amendment, they changed it to say allowing certain charitable organizations and certain religious organizations to engage an unlicensed auctioneer who is not a resident of the organization. But in both of those two amendments, that's clearly significantly different than what came from the Senate that says charity auctions by nonprofit organizations, which are 501c3, at least as far as I know, and churches, and these two references are not automatically 501c3, and usually they're not 501c3s. So this is not significant inconsistencies here.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we've got to go back to the fact that this needs to be cleaned up. And I think, as I said, if Representative Ames and Representative Spilsbury are willing to, and obviously taking input from anyone else, but primarily figure this out, work with Michael Haley, come up with language that clarifies.
Just
Yes.
to follow, my perspective is this needs to go back to the sponsors to find out exactly what their intent was, and that that needs to be clarified before the Charity Bureau can identify what statutes need to be referenced, because using that they have to fall under these two, the RSA and the U.S. Statute, U.S. Code, that this is only about churches and religious organizations, and it leaves out all the other things that are nonprofit, the food bank, you know, New Hampshire Food Bank, tons and tons of nonprofits.
You know, private schools often hold, charities for their operating funds or for the building fund. You know,
Okay.
that's a good sinkhole.
Representative Platt?
I just looked up RSA 721B.
Okay.
And it says, charitable organization shall mean the following: any person or entity that is determined by the IRS to be a tax-exempt organization pursuant to Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, as that section now exists or may thereafter be amended, or, this is the or is important, any other person or entity that is or holds itself out to be established in whole or part for any benevolent, philanthropic, patriotic, educational, humane, scientific, public health, environmental conservation, civic, or other charitable purpose, or any person who in any, you get the picture. I just blew up, but it covers everybody.
So
Yeah, that's,
So with that-
that's exactly the point that I think the chair is attempting to make. It's both and neither.
So can I just ask what he was quoting? Because that doesn't match up with what I found.
Well, he's quoting
I
from
can do that if I
the,
may.
RSA 721B.
Yeah, I just think,
hold
Seven
hold
dot-
on,
seven-
one at a time.
7 hyphen, excuse me, 7, what's that,
Colon.
21 definitions, and then under B. This is, that's
It
one
is.
referred to.
it is. What-
Representative Ames?
Well, you know, it's clearly confusion, so I don't know. We need to take this off and fix it up, but the document that you passed out, Representative Tellos, that explains the key elements of RSA 721-2B is incomplete. It doesn't have the whole statute there. That's not the statute.
I think, in part of Representative Ames and Representative Spilsbury working on this, it's to also understanding,
The purpose.
the purpose and also what the RSA is referring to here actually do, so that we can come up with a comprehensive solution. So I think at this point, we've beat this one to death, and we will, I will close the work session on SB 513.
Thank you.
Assume we don't execute this after.
Needed that one like a hole.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious we will not be execing SB 513 this afternoon. Okay, last but not least, I will open the work session on SB 514. And Representative Platt? I see
Yes.
You have your hand up.
Yes, I did. I have no problem with this bill. It's the revenues by increasing the amount of wood in whatever form that could be taken for personal use, not subject to timber tax. The revenue impact of that is de minimis. To
use the word.
Yeah, to use the word de minimis. Yeah, or it doesn't amount to squat. It's another way of putting the same thing. It's like $200 a year, maybe to an average municipality, in $5 increments, and it's more hassle than it's worth.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you, Representative
Schimpert. Okay, we have agreement there. I guess we can move on. I don't see any other questions or concerns, so I'll close the work session on SB 514. Okay, now I want to break and have execs, caucuses, or at least, I'm sure both sides may want to have a caucus before we get to the exec session, but the time being 20 of 12, probably it makes sense to put lunch in there as well, unless people are against that. But I think
I'd rather starve to death.
you'd rather starve to death. Okay.
I'd rather plow ahead.
What do you want? Have lunch? So why don't we, well, no, we're going to have at least one caucus. So I guess it's 20 of 12. We come back, I think, why don't we come back at what? Well, we're going to have lunch or not? I mean, what do people want to do? Do you want to have lunch or, historically how many people want to just have a caucus come back at 12 and try to exec these? Okay, I think that's what we'll do. All right, so we will start the exec session at 12 o'clock. I would ask everyone to leave the room, please, except Republicans, and we'll have a caucus here. Republican members, committee members.
I just got that.
All right, the time being 12:04, we'll get started on our executive sessions. First up, I'll open the exec session on SB 324 and recognize Representative Plett for a motion.
Yes, I move ought to pass on SB 324 and adoption of Amendment 1310H.
Wait a minute, first we have,
Ought to pass.
okay, do I have a second? Second by Representative Southworth. Somewhere in the corner there.
Okay.
I can't even see you when I move back and forth here. Representative Plett.
I move adoption of amendment number, what did they say, 1310H?
Is that, let's make sure that's the right one. Okay, do I have a second on 1310? Second.
Okay, I have to do a
Representative
second line then, okay?
Yeah,
Because it's a second motion and second.
okay. Are you ready? Would you like to speak to your amendment?
The amendment took care of concerns that we heard during a hearing on this bill. We heard from the Lottery Commission that some of their licenses, a small percentage, are monthly or quarterly, and they couldn't handle this. So they wanted to make sure it applied only to annual licenses. And the rewording takes care of that. At least 45 days prior to the expiration of an annual license issued in accordance with this chapter, the Commission shall notify the licensee of the pending expiration. And then they referred to they have to follow law anyway under RSA 541A 29 and 30. This just makes it explicit the Commission shall conduct such suspensions and revocations in accordance with RSA 541A 30. When we're here during the work session, they had no problem with this amendment.
Other discussion? Okay, seeing none, the clerk will call the roll on the amendment.
All right. Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative Plett votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
Yes.
Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Malloy,
Yes.
Representative Schomburg,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton,
Yes.
Representative Elberger,
Yes.
Representative Leapley,
Yes.
and Representative Smith is not here. Okay, the chair.
Yes.
Okay, so the vote is 19-0, one not voting on the amendment.
Okay. The amendment passes. Now on to the OTPA motion.
I move OTPA, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any questions?
Any seconds?
Thoughts? Where to go? Okay, yeah. Second by Representative Southworth. Okay, seeing no more discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on OTPA.
Okay, Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative Plett votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
Yes.
Representative Ames.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Leapley.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
The vote is, make sure I did that right, it should be 19, 0, 1 voting. But I screwed up the tally, so give me a second. That's because everything's out of order. There's my mistake. 9, 10,
The vote being 19-0. Any objection to consent?
17.
Seeing none, put it on the consent calendar.
Okay.
And I'll close the exec session for SB 324. I'll now open the exec session for SB 363. And recognize Representative Ullery.
Move ought to pass.
Do I have a second? Second by Representative Almy.
Okay, I'm not quite caught up.
All right, we'll give you 10 more seconds.
Thank you for your generosity. Okay, we are on to
363. OTP.
33, 26, 24. Okay. And the motion was made by, Motion was
the
made by-
was Representative Ullery and seconded by Representative Almy.
okay?
Okay, would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Ullery?
Mr. Speaker, how many more? No. This,
I haven't been promoted to speaker yet.
I
but-
was quoting a statement
Oh.
made on the U.S. House floor, excuse me. It's for the dogs. I mean, seriously, what are you going to say on this? But thank you.
Any other discussion following such erudite conversation? Representative Almy,
Is that going to be the report?
I don't think so. No, we won't accept that as the full report. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I am
Yeah.
putting something in the report about Steve Valancourt and animal abuse. Not that Steve was involved in animal abuse, but he helped stop it.
okay. All right, thank you. The clerk will call the roll.
Okay. Ought to pass on bill number 363, which is a simulcast dog racing. Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Doucette. Okay, yes. Representative Ullery.
Yes.
Representative Boyd.
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury.
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Orrs.
Yes.
Representative Vose.
Yes.
Representative Cahill.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Ames.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Leapley.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair.
Yes.
So it's 19-0, 1 not voting.
The vote being 19-0. Any objection to consent? Seeing none, we'll put that on consent as well. And I'll close the exec session for 363. I'll now open the exec session on SB 473 and recognize Representative Platt when he's got a,
I move ought to pass. On
Do I have a
House Bill 473 FN.
do I have a second? Second by Representative Southworth. And would you like to speak to your, yes,
Were we to get an amendment on this before we exec it?
we do. It's on your,
Thank you. I just didn't register it.
The process, I have to move ought to pass one, a second, and then I move the amendment. And that's what I'm about
But
to
we
do.
fixed the language about where the
yeah.
money goes.
Correct. He'll speak
Thank
to
you
it.
very much.
Yeah. Representative Platt, did you want to speak to the motion or did you want to make?
I'd
further
rather
motion.
spook to the, I'd rather move an amendment. I want to make sure I have the right
that
amendment
was-
number here.
That was my hope.
1332H, I think. Okay. Okay, so I move the amendment 1332H.
Yeah. And do I have a second on 1332H? Representative Southworth.
I could have done
Yeah.
that on the same line, but that's okay. Okay.
Representative Platt, if you would speak to your amendment, please.
Yes, after hashing it out this morning, we wound up with some compromises. So this, we took a sentence out, which, so that the money, unclaimed ticket money, is not specified to a special cause. So it's following existing law, which is what I understand Representative Almy wanted in. The commission, the group as a whole supported. So it shall be forwarded to the Lottery Commission, and we added the sentence back in. Such money shall become a part of the special fund established in RSA 28421J. And I think that took care of the concerns this morning.
Yes. And I think that was to make sure it went into the Education Trust Fund.
Point of order. Will
Yes.
they correct the spelling of monies?
Oh,
Where?
It's minor, but I think they correct.
what line is that in?
I'm sorry, it jumped right out at me and now.
Special, line 10?
Yes,
Actually, it could be taken that way with a plural.
either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Just 1 second. 1332H.
On the amendment, yeah.
Yeah, but I have to put the bill number 2. which
No,
is-
that's fine. Take your time.
Okay, this is an amendment. Number, I can't read my own writing, 1332H, 32624. I'll call the roll on the amendment. Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
Yes.
Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Malloy,
Yes.
Representative Schomburg,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton,
Yes.
Representative Elberger,
Yes.
Representative Leapley,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes.
Okay, 19-0, 1 not voting.
Okay. Representative Platt, would you like to make a additional motion?
I move ought to pass as amended for 473 FN.
And Representative Southworth, will you second that
Yeah.
as well?
Okay,
Any discussion on OTP A? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
473 FN, OTPA. Vice Chairman Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy, Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Malloy,
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
No.
Okay. Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Okay. Representative Alberger,
Yes.
Representative Leapley,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes.
So the vote is 18 yes, 1 no, and 1 not voting.
Is there an objection to consent? There is not. Okay. We'll put that on consent. I'll close the exec session on SB 473. I'm going to open the exec session on SB 454 and recognize Representative Spilsbury for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move IS, interim study on SB 454.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Representative Fellows, did you? Representative Fellows will second it.
Do we have any discussion?
And Representative Spilsbury, would you like to speak to your motion?
That gives me time.
Yes, thank you. I think we had a very balanced discussion this morning. I think there was generally a consensus that the timing isn't right, but we shouldn't foreclose the option. We can wait and see what the Senate does and have a better sense of what our revenue availability is. So interim study is the right way of setting it aside, but not putting it to bed.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Okay, this is on a vote, motion of interim study in 454 FN. Vice Chairman Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes?
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
No.
Representative Ames,
No.
Representative Southworth,
No.
Representative Malloy,
No.
Representative Schomburg,
No.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton,
No.
Representative Alberger,
No.
Representative Leapley,
No.
the chairman.
Yes.
So the vote is 10, 8, and 1 not voting. 10 to 8.
No. 11 to 8.
What, where did I screw up? 1,
Got to be 11, yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's where I screwed up. 11. 11 to 8 and 1 not voting. And excuse me, but I'm having to bounce all over, out of order because of this sheet. So forgive me. Huh? Yes,
You're doing a good job, Fred.
Yeah.
done.
Okay, so this,
They're not going on consent.
not going on consent, and who's writing the who's writing the minority report?
Leafly.
Leapley is writing the minority report. Okay, we'll close the exec session on SB 454. We'll now open the exec session on SB 497 and recognize Representative Almy for a motion.
Thank you. I move Senate Bill 497 with amendment.
Do I have, well, wait a minute. Do I have a second
Ought to pass.
on to pass? 497. Second by Representative Bolton. Representative Almy, would you like to make a further motion?
Yes, I move, there it is, Amendment 1294H to SB 497.
Do I have a second on that? Representative Southworth? Would you like to speak to your amendment, Representative Almy?
It's pretty simple. This is something that we have to get done to be in compliance with the federal requirements on disproportionate share hospital examinations, to something I'd never heard of used instead of inspections, but or calculations. But the amendment is necessary because the original language completion of was not precise enough.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Representative Ames, did you have a? Okay. All right. So then we will vote on the amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is amendment number 1294H. And starting with Vice Chairman Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes?
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
Yes.
Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Malloy,
Yes.
Representative Schomburg,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton,
Yes.
Representative Elberger,
Yes.
Representative Leapley,
Yes.
the chair.
Yes.
The vote is 19-0, with one not voting on the amendment.
Okay. Representative Almy, did you have a further motion?
Yes, I move Senate Bill 497 FN as amended by Amendment 1294H.
Do I have a second?
Ought to pass, sorry, as amended.
I'll second.
Bolton,
Second by Representative Bolton. Representative Almy, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think I said it.
I was thinking the same. Okay, seeing no further conversation on OTPA, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
this is OTPA and 497, Representative Doucette,
Yes.
Representative Ullery,
Yes.
Representative Boyd,
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury,
Yes?
Representative Platt votes yes, Representative Sodi,
Yes.
Representative Ors,
Yes.
Representative Vose,
Yes.
Representative Cahill,
Yes.
Representative Almy,
Yes.
Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Southworth,
Yes.
Representative Malloy,
Yes.
Representative Schomburg,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Bolton,
Yes.
Representative Elberger,
Yes.
Representative Leapley,
Yes.
and the chair.
Yes.
Vote is 19-0, one not voting.
Without objection, this will go on consent. Okay. And I will close the exec session on SB 497. And then 513, we are skipping. We will not exec that. As per our work session, there'll be further work on that. So that brings up, again, last but not least, the exec session for SB 514, and I will open that now. And I will recognize Representative Schomburg for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Make a motion to OTP on Senate Bill 514 and speak to my motion.
Do I have a second? Representative Sodi seconds it. And would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. What this bill does is increase the volume of timber eligible for personal use and land conversion timber tax exemptions within the timber tax law and has a de minimis effect upon the revenue stream to the communities.
Well said.
It's different than what Representative Doucette wanted me to say. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Representative Dissett.
Yes.
Representative Dissett, rather. You said yes. Representative Janigian. Excuse me, Representative Boyd.
Yes.
Representative Olery.
Yes.
Representative Spilsbury.
Yes.
Representative Pled votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Orrs.
Yes.
Representative Vose.
Yes.
Representative Cahill.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Ames.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Leapley.
Yes.
And the chair.
Yes.
So the vote is 19-0, 1 not voting on ought to pass on SB 514.
Seeing no, are there any objections to consent? Seeing none, we will also put this on the consent calendar. Okay, good job. I'm glad we didn't go to lunch first. Well done. Thank you, everybody. So next week, as per the email that I'd sent earlier about reserving time, I will schedule a meeting for Tuesday of next week. Really, the only items well, let me first ask Representative Spilsbury and Ames, do you think by is next week too early to have feedback on 513 or, yes, Representative Spilsbury?
I certainly think it's possible, but just a matter of zeroing in and focusing on it. My question is, how many additional Senate bills have we already got in our docket?
So yeah, therein lies what I'm trying to figure out right now. There's only two Senate bills that have been added to our docket so far. And so I was planning on seeing how things went today and finishing up any execs next week and then doing the 2 public hearings. But that's all we really have right now is 2 public hearings and possibly 513.
Given that we've acted on 6 out of 7, have only 2 new ones, and have plenty of time, maybe we don't even need to meet next week and wait for the final wave of bills from the Senate.
Yeah, we probably don't really need to meet next week unless somebody feels that we do.
To my ears.
Okay, I think we're doing great. I think we're moving along very nicely. So I will not schedule anything for next week. That brings us to the week after, when I had said to reserve Monday and Tuesday of the week after. Probably we're only gonna and I'll focus more on a Tuesday because I know people try to schedule things on Mondays and Fridays. Unless we get a barrage of Senate bills, I don't anticipate meeting more than what is that date of the following week? The 9th, Tuesday the 9th. So I guess for right now, probably Tuesday the 9th, we'll try to exec maybe SB 513. Representative Ames and Spilsbury, kind of keep in mind that, so 2 weeks from now, we'll try to exec 513, and then we'll have public hearings on the Senate bills that are at least the 2 and any new ones that come in at that time. So Representative Almy.
Yeah, on the 11th is crossover. And we'll probably get most Senate bills that we would get then after that,
Okay.
which would mean 2 weeks away. But I guess.
So you're saying we might only still have 2 Senate bills at
Or
that time.
maybe 3, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let me look at the calendar. So you're
The trouble
proposing.
is you won't know until Thursdays, so.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying leave, so we won't meet next week. It sounds like there's no need to. but leave open Tuesday the night. I mean, probably only need one day. I don't know that we need to reserve the 8th unless someone thinks I'm missing something. It's a little bit for, let's give it a little more time, but I think it's only going to be the 9th. We will not tentatively plan on the 8th as well. But as soon as I have further,
What I'm saying is the 9th, we're gonna have 3 plus maybe 1 or 2 have to cross over.
oh, you're saying tentatively the 9th, so we might not meet till the
We may
16th.
not, yeah, we may not even have to meet on the 9th. We got two pieces.
So we dispatched 454 was the one that needed, that was the only early
the
bill.
only
That's
early
done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's possible we might not meet until Tuesday, the 16th. Okay, TBD, but for now, we're not meeting next week, the week of the 1st, but continue to leave open the 9th. I don't think we need the 8th. Just leave open the 9th. Okay, thank you. Any other, yes, Representative Elberger.
So I just want to confirm, nothing next week.
Right.
Let's skip, you're canceling Monday, the 8th.
Yes, I don't think we need Monday, the 8th.
And if we meet on the 9th, we'd be executing first.
Um,
And the reason I'm asking is working around a doctor's appointment.
yeah. There's only one bill. Yeah, there'd only be one bill to exec, and that would be 513.
I don't suspect we're gonna meet.
And that, but that would be the first item that we would do.
It doesn't have to be.
It would be easier.
Oh, that's your preference.
We,
The only reason for, well, no, I guess you don't know how long public hearings go either. Yeah, we could probably exec, that, any Tuesday meeting starts at 10 in deference to the Democratic caucus, who's not available till 10. So we could exec that at 10 o'clock if we decide to do it on the 9th. It's possible that we won't meet that week of the 8th and 9th either, but for now, I would say leave the 9th open just in case I do get a barrage of Senate bills in.
it'd have to be a barrage of the early bills from the Senate, because we've got until May 16th for the rest of them.
There's a good chance we won't meet on the 9th either, but reserve it for now. Yeah, there's no need to reserve the 8th, the more I'm thinking about it, so. Okay. Any other questions? The last thing is just reports. Those of you who have a report to write, you don't need to write it now before you leave. And I think my preference would be to have it, rather than write it out on a sheet of paper, to email it to me electronically, because for two reasons. One is if there's anything that needs to be changed on it, it's easier to change, but it's also a heck of a lot easier for Karen not to have to read writing and so forth. So
Especially with my writing, which is abysmal.
I was mainly thinking, no, I'm just kidding. So in terms of timing of that, if you can, obviously for the count, it's not critical because we have time, but if you can get them in before noontime on Wednesday or sooner, if you can get it in tonight or by, say, noontime Wednesday, great. If you just absolutely can't do it, then by the end of the week, but my preference would be sooner than later. If there's nothing else, any other questions? I think yes, Representative Fellows.
Yes, I'm wondering if we could get some research on 597, the new one coming up relative to the Lucky 7 tickets. Because it seems to me, I think we passed something last year related to that, and I just wanted to be able to compare. I don't even know if what we passed last year actually was
I don't know,
enacted.
but I mean, obviously it'll start with a public hearing and lottery being here. They probably would be an immense help in that regard. And then we'll schedule work sessions as appropriate to get
Okay.
additional info. Unless if there's something specific that you'd like to get, you could requested, but for now, not knowing what bill it is or anything.
Okay, they may answer all those questions.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Good work today.
Seems like we just keep getting the same things